Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic group of independent comic book creators. So please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the video, let everybody know we're here. And don't forget, the Oswald Chronicles currently on Kickstarter. So go check it out. And without further ado, the special co-host is here today.
Oh, oh, where? Oh, hold on. I have. I'm still DJing back here. Hold on.
All right.
Just setting up the board here. Oh my goodness. So, hold on. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Okay.
All right.
All right. So, hello everybody. My name is Daphne Lage, and I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist from New York. I have been self-publishing comics with this guy since 1992, and we are known for the furry fantasy adventure Tall Tales, which is currently on Kickstarter right now with less than 2 weeks to go. Link is in the show notes and in the chat. That's what I've been doing, updating the chat with all our links. And I am also known for my medieval fantasy drama, Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, which also returns to Kickstarter early summer with Volume 2, which collects issues 5 through 8. So you can check out my stuff at my website at eagleworks.com. The link is right there. So.
What's up, Jim? All right, and then the not so special co-host for tonight.
I'll take that. I'll take the back seat to the lady. I got no problem, brother. Come on, look at this, man. She's the actual boss in that house.
Of our own. Let the lower creatures fend for themselves.
The funny thing is, I don't know who put that up. I don't know if it was you or you. Either way, it was funny. I am JD Rosario from Unstoppable Comics. Been making books since 2008 with titles such as Curse of the Dragon Storm, Shield of the Interceptor, The Dead Princess Vicky Sticks, These Storm Chasers, and currently on Kickstarter right now, running for the next 2 weeks, the Zombie Epic. So get yourself out those graves, folks. New York versus the world.
There you go. And we have Mr. Tim.
Hey, what's up, gang? What is up? I want to say thanks for having me on the show. I'm super excited. I just got back from the 4-State Comic-Con. We had a heck of a great time. For those of you watching, if you don't know, my name's Timothy B. Fling. I'm a writer, publisher, and songwriter from York, Pennsylvania. And I'm here tonight representing, I guess you might have heard, we've been moving into music making a little bit too. And we got a new song release, which I'm going to encourage all you guys to go and listen to it if you like music. I guess I told some of you guys I'm a musician. Some people a little bit unfamiliar with this. When I was younger, this is before AI was around, and you used to gather a couple of guys together. It was called a band, and you would try and make a song, right?
In a place called a garage.
Right. Yeah. And this is so different. This, and if it was really good, you'd try and make a thing called an LP. I won't get into the whole thing. It's made out of vinyl, or in some cases, even a CD. This is before the streaming corporations took over the public interest, of course. But people don't realize this, but human beings used to make music.
All right. Very nice.
And also the link to his YouTube channel is also in the chat as well. So.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
There you go. And without further ado,
they used to make art too, but
yeah. Well, we'll get into that, right?
I saw a meme though where it's talking about AI, AI taking over jobs, and it's the Grim Reaper looking at their newspaper.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
an AI robot Grim Reaper coming up behind him. However, I am not AI as far as I know, but how would I know if I was AI anyway? I've seen Michael Lanning, independent artist, done work for Hasbro Productions, Bad Times Grace with JD, and a couple of other things, Arrow Comics and so on. Plus host a lot of shows on ICN, Independent Comics Network, Indy Comics Network, which is indycomicsnetwork.com, obviously. And yeah, there.
All right, cool.
And link to his Facebook also in the chat.
There you go.
Nice.
So listen, guys. Tonight we're a little light. We're running We're running too lighter than we normally run. We normally
No,
run
this
7.
is perfect. This is perfect.
No, this is actually really good. Yes, I agree. So we're gonna have a more or less a pretty open discussion about comics. I do have my show question. I'll ask it, and then we can just start talking about whatever you guys want to talk about. But as long as it's comic book related, I don't want to talk about pizza, hot dogs, and movies.
I love all three. I don't know.
I know. Listen, I draw 3 too, but
What's up with the anti-pizza agenda, man?
Yeah, man.
Right?
That's not cool, dude. Not cool, bro.
I know. I like steak.
Dude, I like.
Everybody likes steak, hot dogs. Why all this food hatred? I don't get it.
He's the one that said as long as it's comic book related. Yet he's the one bringing up all the food. That's wrong, dude. That's wrong.
I'm
It is.
tolerant.
we out here in the other places of the states know not to get into an argument about pizza with New Yorkers. So we understand staying away from that.
Thank you,
This
sir.
is true.
I appreciate
This
it.
is true.
I ain't gonna mess with jambalaya. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna mess with crawfish. I mean, I like it. I'm not gonna say I don't, but that's your specialty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is New Orleans. That's Louisiana. That's that Gulf of Mexico. Your specialty, and if it's presented to me, I ain't gonna say no
stuff
to
they
it.
eat down here, but yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. That's enough
You
of that.
started it though, dude. You started it.
I know, and I'm ending it. Thank you. Drink your water.
I'll bring it back around.
All right. Do you have your shot glass with you?
No, why?
Whiskey?
No,
No,
not
I
tonight.
was just curious. You had it last night. You were getting all tipsy on us.
That was nice. I had a good buzz going. I was like, Jesus. I think I got to stop.
Just a little bit. But anyway, listen. I've been seeing a little bit of buzz online. People talking about how the future of comics isn't actual floppies, but trades, right? So my question is, is the future trades, and do floppies stand a chance? Do we feel that the floppy is still a viable delivery, form for comic books? I mean, what do you guys think? Let's start with Mr. Fling.
Okay, I'm glad you asked me this question, JD. And excuse me, my answer is going to be a little bit long. I've prepared an elaborate answer, so please be patient and bear with me. The answer is the future of comics trade paperbacks? Yes. Do floppies stand a chance? No. Next.
All right.
Settling in for a good long time.
Almost everybody next week.
I was messing with you a little bit, but I will say that I'm trying to be funny, but you go by all the sales reports, and the truth is that trade paperbacks are performing strong, and floppies. You have people like Marvel and DC. Each consecutive month, the sales of floppies struggle. And this is with your mega characters. So that's another subject as to why they're struggling. But at the end of the day, it's probably the least profitable segment. So I'm going to base my answer on this. When it comes to the decisions that are made by corporations, whether we agree with them or not, at the end of the day, they're not really driven by consumer demand, and they're not driven by collector demand. There's a chance that it'll be slightly more profitable for the shareholders. That's the way they're going to drive their business. So I got to say, it's probably trade paperbacks within a short time frame.
Okay, fair enough, Mr. Lanning.
Okay. I'm going to kind of take it from the indie point of view on this. I do believe that trade is going to be more viable for the buyer. However, the problem comes in when you're an independent artist and trying to drum up money to do it, is drumming up enough money to actually put out a viable trade, right? I mean, you're talking about a trade is usually, 96 pages? Give or take?
Give or take, yeah.
It could be 48. Some are promoted as 48 pages minimum.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so, but even still, though, that's still a lot for somebody. Like, for instance, the writers in the room having to pay for art for 48 pages versus paying for art for 22 pages, right?
Right.
So I don't think that it's necessarily going to die off anytime soon as far as independents and Kickstarters are concerned. That's just going to kind of be that's just going to have to be the way for a while. And even still, I think the issue with the floppies, and don't get me wrong, I'm a trades guy. I really am. And I agree that, if you're going to tell a long form story, trades are probably the best way to go.
Mhm.
But I think that a floppy can be viable if they're self-contained stories. That's where it comes in. And not only is it self-contained, but it also has to be frequent, right? You can't have one floppy and then 2 or 3 years later release number 2.
Right.
That kind of thing. So if you're looking to tell a longer story, I would say trades definitely. But if you could get away with telling shorter, concise stories using the same characters, like a James Bond or what are those type of characters, Conan or whatever the case is, I think there's still a market for that. I think it could still be viable as floppies. So
Fair enough.
I hope you understood that. So
Yeah.
it makes sense in my head. But
No, it makes sense. Mr. Rosario, what are your thoughts?
4 letters. 4. ISBN. Okay. The reason why graphic novels are the future, are the market right now, is because of the accessibility that graphic novels have in different areas for people to purchase them, whether it's Amazon, bookstores, book drives, school drives. All right. I think I mentioned last night, there are over 119,000 libraries in the United States. The majority are school libraries, with over 9,000 public libraries in the US. All right. That alone, compared to the what's number, somewhere between 2,000, 2,500, maybe as low as 1,800 comic book shops in the country. Okay. A huge disparity with accessibility for the product. Will single issues, periodicals die out? No. Just like vinyl has had its up and downs, right? Right. Just like VHS is now a collectible product.
it's
we will
hilarious.
we will never lose the single issue. All right. People call it loss leader, whatever. There is a certain marketing strategy to having a product on the shelf on a rotating monthly basis, because it is keeping that title in the consciousness of the folks that are out there looking for it, buying it, maybe to remind them that it still exists, right? And we also mentioned this last night, from a strategic standpoint. The bigger corporations utilize that to flood the market, to generate more awareness of the product, whether it's making money for them or not, right? And it is generating awareness for sales in other areas. But I'm a numbers guy. We talk numbers a lot, and I've gone to those ICV2 meetings at New York Comic Con, and one of the things Milton Grief has always spoken about has been graphic novels. Always. But it is because it is accessible throughout the country in ways that the single issues are not. If they were still on newsstands, maybe there'd be a chance. If there were still Spinnerex in the pharmacies and the soda shops, or the head shops, or the liquor store or the convenience store, right, the bodegas, maybe they would have stood a chance. But with 18 to 2,500 retail locations selling this niche product, it's difficult.
All right, fair enough. Daphne, what do you think?
Well, as a consumer, I have especially been gravitating towards trades. I just don't have the patience or it, for individual issues. And especially since trades themselves just seem to be a better value. I'd rather have 4 or 5 issues in one book than spend technically more money on 5 individual issues. The only time I've bought individual issues is if I don't know for certain if the artist is going to put out a trade. So I'll take that chance there. But most of the time, especially if I know you're going to put out a trade, I'll wait. I'm going to wait because that's a better value for me. And also, it's much easier for me to deal with one volume than it is to deal with 4 or 5 different individual issues.
Yeah.
As someone on selling books on Kickstarter, the audience for trades and individual issues are usually 2 separate audiences. So I wouldn't see individual issues disappearing because that's a different audience that collects that, as opposed to a trade paperback, which people do skip those individual campaigns for and then wait for the trade. So even though I personally go straight to trades, I'm not going to abandon part of my audience because of that. Like there are people, when I was about to come out with the first trade of Eager Raven, my original idea was to phase out issues 1 through 4. And it's like, okay, you have to buy the trade. And I had people contact me separately going, it's like, nah, could you keep those available? Because, we collect those and I want to be able to collect them later.
Right.
And I go, you know what? I can't say no to that. In the end, it's not like I have a storage unit full of copies. So it's very easy for me to keep the floppies in print. But yeah, it just depends. Yeah. So actually, it doesn't just depend. If I'm selling books, I'm going to offer both floppies and trades, because also floppies are a good way to buy me time as I'm working on enough work to get to the trade, because I do everything myself. So I kind of use trades as kind of like that, to kind of like a stalling tactic. So it has floppies fill a different need for me, that it's like I'm not going to be quick to get rid of them.
Right.
So so for me, trades, it's like trades, yes, but you know what, floppies are going to have they're always going to have a place somewhere in the ecosystem of what we do.
Daphne, one more thing on top of that, I noticed when I'm at conventions, right, people don't want to spend the $20-$25 on a trade, but they'll spend the $5 on a single issue.
Right. Yeah,
right?
exactly. So that's,
Mhm.
it's like you have to kind of like know who you're selling to, especially, when you're producing books. It's like, at conventions, it's easier for me to sell one floppy than it is to sell a trade, because it is more expensive. I could sell a $5 floppy, like you said, as opposed to a $25, or in my case, a $35 trade. So that's, I don't want to ignore that either. It's kind of like getting rid of floppies is throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Although the ultimate idea is that once I have my series complete and it's all in trades, then I would get rid of the floppies. But
from a convention standpoint, it's easier to travel with trades, right? From show to show than it is with single issues. There's a higher price point, right? Russ mentioned this earlier, and he said, moving to the trade paperbacks on campaigns hurts creators, as backers spend 30 or 50 on a campaign, which is multiple variant covers. They're less likely to buy multiple trade paperbacks with variant.
Oh no, absolutely. But that's why you have to come up with a different strategy for that, especially if you're used to running campaigns where you're dependent on variant covers. You have to, and then that requires a different strategy.
But a good creator will have all of those options on their campaign regardless, right? They'll have their trades, they'll have their single issues, right? And they'll jump on that. One more thing I forgot to mention was that numbers are recorded for trades. Numbers are not recorded anymore for single issues, right? Going back to the toothpicks that our industry is held up on, we don't know, how many books are being sold of any particular
Well, it's
title.
not that
Wait,
numbers
hold
are not
on a
being
second. What do you mean
reported.
by
They're
that,
not
Jay?
being released. They're not publicly
They're
available.
not being right. They're not.
That's two
Excuse me.
different
They're not
things.
being right.
Trust
They're not
me,
being released.
the
Correct.
right people are recording
Correct.
those numbers. They're just not publicly releasing them.
They're not putting it out there. Right. We're guesstimating that the Thundercats #1 sold 170,000 units. We don't know for a fact, right? Comic-Con stopped publicizing those numbers, 3 years ago, right?
Mhm.
Maybe.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Yet BookScan, shit. Brian Hibbs put out, the BookScan numbers. He was reporting on the BookScan numbers a few weeks ago, and as much as some people hate to admit it, being #1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? Being in that top 10, selling X amount of units is another marketing plug, right? It's something else to speak about the book to keep it in the idea going about it. What's up?
But in all honesty, looking at Thundercats floppy, is that even viable to somebody in your position? For
my
all
position
honesty?
or in the marketing position?
No, because we're talking about two different markets. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We're talking about a mainstream market and we're talking about an indie market.
Right.
And we're talking about Thundercats, which is an 80s niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is already being marketed to people who were used to floppies and spinner racks from the 80s. So that doesn't really help me as an independent to decide on whether I need to put floppies out, because that crowd right there is going to buy they're the Thundercats fans.
For that, correct.
That kind of thing. That's what I'm saying. So whether we have the numbers for that, is that important?
It's not important, but I think what I'm trying to get across is they made that number available to us. And now, I'm speaking about it. I'm speaking about it months after the fact, right? So it has an impact that trickled down to our commentaries.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I got a different. Go ahead, Steve. You got something to say?
No, but I think what's interesting is Daphne said, she talked about getting away from the floppies, but people wanted it. And one of the worst things that I have seen a certain publishing company do this from outside of Florida. I don't really care if it's shade or not, but the fact is that you would do an issue 1, and then we're going to release a trade. An issue 1 to what? To what?
Oh, well, that brings up another point too. Another reason why, I'm personally preferential to trades is that at least a trade shows me that you got that far.
Yeah.
Because it's like you had said before, that it's like we have these publishers who they put out an issue a year. How long is it going to take for you to tell even a fraction of your story? At least a trade has some semblance of your story in kind of like a meatier format.
Right.
Now to answer C's question, there's a couple of companies that do that. They release the issue 1. The issue 1 is to whet the appetite of a buyer, so that if they like it, they then will pick up the trade. But they usually will let you know that they're only releasing issue 1. You know what I mean?
Okay,
the company I'm thinking about.
Yeah, but even still, we're also talking about the same company that doesn't like to pay their creators. But anyway, we're not going to get into that. We're going to talk about the fact that but it's instead of that, why don't you call it a preview or what's it called?
An issue 0?
Prologue, yeah, something like sure. Even going to that
An
far, right?
ash can?
Wow, isn't that amazing? You could come up with all this, but when you say issue 1, that automatically says that there's going to be an issue 2. And why do people collect issue 1s? Because it's the first of a series.
Right,
And
but it's also
that, I think it's dishonest. I really do.
There's collectability that they're after, for people buying
But
those issues.
but you're killing collectability.
No, they're just showcasing how bullshit the collectability is.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm
You're
saying.
just it's like, see, you're just scouting for an answer there.
You're right.
What can you say about
That's true.
techniques like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice. Very nice. Okay, so for myself, I look at it as I view it as a little different thing. Right? It's the business aspect of my business, right? I'm not too concerned about what Dynamite and all these other companies are doing, right? I release floppies because, as Jade mentioned earlier, is a loss lead, right? So the floppy allows me to gather the cash together to be able to pay for the continuing series. I can continue going forward, right? And then when I get to the trade, that's just a little bit of extra cash, back there as well. You know what I mean? How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Mike.
But yeah, that's a strategy that I think a lot of us are using, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we have to keep using that because, and the thing is the fans who collect trades and the fans who collect floppies are two different groups of people.
Yeah.
There is some crossover, but they do tend to be two different groups. I see it. I've done enough of them to know that like there's a group of people who are buying. There's a small segment, probably about 20% that are buying both, but that other 80%, two separate groups. So yeah, so it's actually kind of interesting when it's worked out like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the floppy is going anywhere for a while. It's been here,
especially in independent,
Oh, yeah.
There's just no way you can get around it.
I think even in Marvel and DC, they still sell enough of them that it's very viable, and they've managed to chop down the price of their creators enough that it's going to be viable for a while.
Man, you heard a few weeks ago it came out that Greg Weisman, I don't want to say a big time animated series producer, but he was one of the guys who created Gargoyles amongst worked on a number of other animated series. He also did the Gargoyle comic book, which continues from the end of season 2. I think it was Dynamite. I don't know who was
Dynamite.
Was putting it out, and it made a big splash also. So his contract for Spider-Man came out. And you figure somebody that comes about with some stroke, with some clout to their name, only bringing in $100 a page as a writer, right?
That's pretty
for a 30-page book. So that's $3,000 for the book. And this is somebody with a name.
Their books are usually 20 pages.
No, it was
like a double size or something?
Kind of something like that, yeah.
Special? Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. So it was contracted for 30 pages. It came out in the leak, and it's like, okay. I'm not that far from paying myself that. I'm only $100 away from paying myself his $100 pay.
Well, we talked about it on here before about how the prices at Marvel are paying pencilers and inkers and everything like that, and more people are making more money doing independent stuff than they are doing mainstream stuff anyway.
I've spoken to a couple of mainstream creators. I know of, all right, and legitimately two, that are going to be crowdfunding their own books in the near future. So it's like, okay. And these are guys that are also, still doing work, with the mainstream. And it's like,
yeah. And the thing is we see Boom, Dynamite. Who's another one that I think IDW. All of them use, crowdfunding. At what point is DC and Marvel going to move into that space? Right.
Zenoscope has used it, yeah.
Yep, Zenoscope, yeah. So
right now they're trying to hit the webtoons market with
their Tom guy. Who's this Tom guy?
I don't know who that Tom dude is.
I don't know who that guy is.
I don't know who that dude is.
But he's right. But no, that's why I'm saying it's kind of a different thing when you look at independent versus a mainstream audience, because for guys, especially for writers, like yourself, JD, and you, Tim, and Rosario, is the fact is that you have to have that money to be able to pay the artists. Yeah. So that's why I said floppies.
Right.
And truth, they can't go anywhere. Not in the independent market. Not if you're going to thrive at any cost.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those things where it's just like it's necessary for us to just to continue.
Right. Right. For the bigger companies, it's a loss leader, right? And you mentioned this for us, it's a way to recoup our expenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's for us to have expenses.
Yeah.
Daphne.
What?
You're questioning. You're up.
Daphne went for breakfast. What? What?
Right.
Nothing. Fucking go make it. Go.
At what point do we come to the realization that what large companies, more mainstream companies do or don't do is actually irrelevant to what we're doing?
Yeah.
Because I think that there's always a lot of discussion as to what Marvel's doing, what DC's doing, what, it's like, oh, what traditional publishing is doing. And, I know that there's this thing about studying successful people or studying successful whatever, studying success, right? But there comes a point where it just feels like the discussion about these larger companies is actually just a cover for realizing that you'll never be at that level and you don't want to admit to it. And it's like, it's a lot easier to discuss a larger company's issues than it is to realize that it's like, okay, this is where I'm at. And my issues are completely different than what these companies are doing. And not only are they completely different, they're completely irrelevant to what I'm doing. It's dovetailing on what C had said. Knowing that, I don't know, that, like, what was the Thundercats sold 100,000 copies. Who cares? That has nothing to do with us. We're never going to sell 100,000 copies. We're not doing Thundercats. We don't own the IP. So what difference does it make to dissect that?
Mm-hmm. See, since you got her started on this, bro.
Okay, but no, we'll see. Yeah, and we had this discussion on here before, and me and another gentleman kind of got into a heated debate about it because his idea was that we should be paying attention to what they're doing, and I was like, why? Because
Jay's right there. You can
no,
just address
it wasn't Jay. It wasn't Jay.
It wasn't me. I don't got heat with C. Come on, bro. Why are you trying to start with heat between us?
Yeah, and I think the only thing Jay and I've ever gotten into anything disagreement about was maybe cons, but other than that, but no.
And Linktree, that's it.
And Linktree? Oh yeah. No, I don't do Linktree anymore.
Here, this is you know what? Let me put it bluntly, if that wasn't blunt enough. That sometimes I'm under the suspicion that a lot of people who are in indie comics are just in indie comics because it's the ugly girl that lets them get away with shit until the cheerleader finally pays attention to them.
Ooh, cut it deep, girl. Cut it deep.
No,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're in indie comics, but you're always worried about what Marvel is doing.
Yeah.
Why?
That's a good point.
Well, I think your initial question was, will we ever stop looking at it?
Like
no,
what's the point? Like what point? What do we, yeah.
and no, because you know what's going to end up happening? I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but there's a lot of more companies, comic creators coming out with YouTube channels, coming out with shows and stuff like that. And the reason why they're doing that is they won't be able to find a market. So what are they going to try to do? They're going to try to exploit that mainstream because they think that mainstream exploitation is what's going to get them views and it's going to translate to sales. It doesn't, but that's what they do. So I don't think that it will ever really go away, unfortunately, because it's just a mindset. It's we can build ourselves up like Todd McFarlane, right? But without the fact that Todd McFarlane had so many years at one company, or we're not even living in the same type of space anymore that we were back then. That kind of thing. I always get tired of hearing Image. I'll be completely honest with you. Stop trying to be Image. Stop. You don't understand it. You're trying to act like we're going to be the next Image. Stop. Because it's no different than any other fucking comic book company. It's not. It's not. The only thing is they had a whole bunch of name brand people. Yeah. Go. But that's the thing. And you're right. We need to. I think somebody said it in the comments. You're looking at. I think they brought up Mike Pender and Pat Shan, and looking at those folks, Comic Tribes maybe, and you can look at those guys and see what they're doing and get a better idea than looking at what Marvel, Image, or DC are doing. Even Dark Horse. Because I promise you, when I saw Image Transformers, you can stop calling Image an independent company now. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Yeah. It's not there anymore. They will license IPs and they will put it out. They have stopped being, and I'm going to say this, JD, sorry, but they have stopped being an independent company when Eric Larson took over from Jim Valentino. That was it. He gave the death knell. As now, Image is thriving, but it's no longer independent in that sense because he went out and he went to Marvel artists, he went to Marvel writers, he went to the DC artists to pump money into Image. It's not what everybody seems to think it is. It's not. But you can look at other things like Arrow Comics, Anarchic Press, Bad Bug, whatever the case is, and get an idea of what you're looking at. But even with some of those, you also have to take in consideration how long have they been around? You know? So it could get... You need to definitely look at some of the smaller publishers. Let's stop looking at the mainstream. They're not going to... they're not going to help you, regardless. Two, we're not even sure how true those numbers are. Let's be honest. We're not really sure how those numbers are. Disney lies to us all the time.
Yes, they do. They lie to their own shareholders, and I've seen the shareholders meetings to prove it.
Look,
let's be honest. We lied to the backers. Books are on their way, so I don't want to hear that.
I don't know about it. Look, if you lie to your backers, that's your business, Jay.
Wait a minute.
Books are on the water.
My books are out. My books are out.
I don't want to hear that.
You lying to your backers is your business, Jay.
Serious. You put yourself out in Front Street, bro. Unnecessary.
Everybody lies. Look, I use that as a quick example, but everybody lies. Right?
Well, that is true. I did say you were good looking the other day.
Dude, I say I'm good looking. Come on. Come on. I tricked my wife. I was like, every day we were on, I sat like 10 tables away. Hey, where are you going? You know what I mean? So, look, when it comes to talking about those other companies, right? It's for us, it's the lure because people don't know about us. And trying to lure somebody in by utilizing the broader spectrum is a way to, oh, what did they say about Deadpool? Oh, what did they say about Venom? Oh, what did they say about Scott Snyder? Whatever, right? It's trading on that, right? Piggybacking on that to try to hook them in and get them to understand our product, right? Get them to understand what we're doing. That's it. That's it. We can't compete with them, right? We can't do what they do. We don't have the rich uncles. We don't have the VC money behind us.
Well, speak for yourself, brother.
Tim, you got a rich uncle? Sure.
God damn it, brother. Sure. I'm gonna hang out with you then. No wonder you're making your own music too.
Heck yeah, man. If you look, I can't give too many tips, but I'll give you this one for free.
Go.
Get yourself a rich uncle.
Don't bet on the ponies.
But you know, I mean, that's it. You know, we talk about it because the broader populace knows about it, right? And within our community, we are incestuously cannibalizing each other's customers, clientele, whatever. All that zero sum game, I think it's bullshit. There's a certain amount of money that can go around. So if we're utilizing those things, those topics, only to bring in people from the outside, from the broader spectrum, right? Then hopefully we get a couple more bucks with what we're selling. That's how I see it. Can I do anything that they do? No, I can't. No way I can. Right? Can I put on a good show with the couple bucks that I got in my pocket? Yeah. Can I entertain people, you know, my own way? Can I make them feel like the money they spent on me has been well worth it? And that's the only thing I can hang my hat on.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Seems like Jay feels attacked, but okay. Tim, how do you feel?
Well, first of all, there's a couple of good points here, and I didn't realize that we were discussing directly I think Russ said it best in the comments. It is actually two markets, right? Like you talk about the collector market. Those people buy things, and for the record, you guys know I'm a collector. Yes, I'm a comic collector, and even you might say an avid one. But I'll buy things that people, maybe other customers, wouldn't necessarily buy. I might buy a variant cover, and of course, I do offer, as I said, Russ mentioned it. Hey, you can have a set of 4 variant covers in your campaign. There's going to be somebody that will buy 4 variant covers, and it does boost your campaign. So I hope that one's not going away. My sense is that it's not going away. But I don't, this is one man's opinion. I'd like to hear other opinions. I don't do variant covers on the trade because to my 2 cents, that's the one that's iconic. It's got to turn up in libraries. That should be one image, or at least that's what I thought. Maybe there's other opinions. So I don't do variant trade covers. Maybe I'm leaving money on the table. But I think that the trade is headed toward one market, like we mentioned earlier, the libraries, the schools, and what Daphne and I call the trade waiters.
Yeah.
But there is another customer, and that's the one who does support various Kickstarters. They're the ones that tend to turn up at comic conventions. They like the lore. They like the cover that's a little different. Sometimes they like things that have errors on them. I sometimes do well with error covers, stuff like that. But the collectible market, I'm not sure if that's a gauge as to how the other one is going to perform because, you know, let's be honest, collectors can be a little odd, right? I take that, I'll put myself in the example. I bought some stuff that I'm pretty sure nobody else would buy. I'm a flaming carrot collector, for example.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, right? Yeah, he's awesome. And remember, they even had that great movie, The Mystery Men, and somehow they left Flaming Carrot out of it. Yeah, they left him out of his own movie. Can you imagine if they would have done that to Batman?
Anyway. They probably couldn't afford the special effects.
right.
At the time, probably.
No,
that was probably most likely the reason.
By the way, that movie is. I recently rewatched it, and it holds up well even after.
I like Mystery Men. I don't care what anybody says. I like it.
It's still funny, man. It's such a funny film.
Yeah. The Disco Boys and everything. It's
right.
I'm only invisible when you're not looking at me. That's a great.
I like the closing line is, and what were they called? You think they're going to say the Mystery Men, and he goes, the Super Squad. He says it wrong, and that's the ending. Great film, but it does kind of illustrate that there's, and I'm suggesting that this is a positive, not a negative, that the collector market kind of props up the one end that we're talking about. But I don't think the market props up the variant covers and the things like this. The market props up trades, or at least that's what these numbers suggest. Am I right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the truth is, like all things, somewhere in the middle. And I think Russ was pretty close. It's probably advantageous to the indie market to have both. It's like C was saying, when you go forward, hey, it's great that you have this trade. Best of luck with it. But hey, man, if you're running a Kickstarter, put 4, 5, 6 variants in there, however many you do, because you're going to reel in those collector people that we're also trying to reach, and you're probably not going to hit your number without it. I do it the same way you guys do. I release them first as floppies. Mm-hmm. You know, I like to talk out of both sides of my mouth. You know that by now. So I think that the best thing to probably do is to release them on Kickstarter through floppies, get to your goal, which is to make the trade, and then release the trade and try for, I hate to use the term mainstream, but one of the new things that we're trying to get into the libraries, to get into the schools and this kind of thing. That's obviously going back to Jay's statement, you know, when you talk about 9,000-10,000 locations versus trying to get into comic stores. And, you know, I'm a guy that loves comic book stores, but I've got to admit to myself that it is very tough times for these guys and girls.
Yeah.
Having a comic book store, these margins are razor thin for these folks. And, you know, they want to help the indies, and most of them are so kind-hearted and such awesome people. But the truth is that they'd be better off having a Funko Pop stand there with the latest Taylor Swift, whatever it is, rather than having 100 of my books. They're going to be way more profitable to, you know, have some of these other items. And again, that's not me insulting that item. That's just the realistic, you know, realities of the world that we all live in. They're trying to keep the lights on, you understand? So, you know, I don't know what the long-term answer is going to be. I agree with Jay that the collector is not going away. But, you know, the example that he used, I think, proves my point more than his. Where he said, hey, well, you know, the VCR still got a collectible market, the VHS tapes. Yeah, that's true, but they don't make VHS tapes anymore. So that kind of, you know.
Well, I think with that issue, though, I think you could probably say on that because records went away for a long time too, and then that started to kind of vinyl started to make a comeback. Too.
Yeah.
But you're all right. They were still kind of making vinyls here and there. So
they were,
I don't
and
know if
I would still say
that
that might be a little bit of an outlier. I don't know the numbers.
But even then, with vinyl, it's only very particular albums that get made, and they're done specifically for that collector market.
Correct.
I mean, it's not like it, it's not like you're going to get like any, and they're priced like they're collectibles.
Right. Yeah.
These
vinyl LPs that you buy now, they're $50, $60, $70 a pop.
Right.
If you remember the kind of LPs that we're talking about,
yeah.
When Iron Maiden was on top of the world, they had a world tour. They're going to all the places, to go and buy their album. It was $11.
Yeah.
So it's, it's apples and oranges to me.
Right.
So it's at Target. They sell them for $50 an album. Cause I know they're selling them at Target. Right. So
I can tell you, I was in, do you guys have Books A Million? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I think there's one in the city.
Yeah, they sell LPs here, and they do anime and a lot of D&D stuff. It's a pretty cool store. But I went in there and they had Pink Floyd The Wall.
Ooh, I still got mine.
Yeah, awesome album, right? And it was and I'm sure it was a remaster and whatever fancy language it was, but it was $65.
Right. Yeah.
Which I bought The Wall the first time, and it was the #1 album in the country, and I want to say
you have the fold out with the Gerald scarf.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, good stuff, man. Good stuff.
The artwork in that alone is worth the $50.
Yeah,
it really is, though. But
hey, and God bless them. Look, I'm not against anybody making money. You understand? I'm a capitalist. But there is a little bit of a disconnect. If you're selling, I guess what I'm trying to say is we all know that a piece of vinyl doesn't cost $60 to make.
Right.
And we already know that they aren't exactly lacking in profits from selling The Wall. So why are they charging $60 a copy for it? Because there's a slender subset of people that are collectors that'll say, hey, you know what? I'll pay 6 times what this thing is worth.
Right. Because also what they do, too, is that they hang them on their wall. They have special shelves that display the like it's a whole thing now, along with their USB record players.
Yeah.
It's a whole aesthetic that they're selling to, not just the collectability of it.
Yeah, I totally get that. I bought a turntable. I got a turntable over Christmas, and it's not exactly a hi-fi or anything like that.
Right,
it's one of the cheap ones. But I'm telling you, it is so fun to grab a vinyl out and slap it down and listen to a little Black Sabbath while I'm making comics.
One thing about those, and I know we're getting into pizzas and hot dogs and everything, but one thing about the vinyls are the sound quality of the individual instruments is actually better than what you get in digital. There was I think it was Nat King Cole's daughter or grandchild or whatever, I can't remember, who was talking about that, how they decided, the record actually had better sound to it because you can hear the individual instruments as opposed to how it sounds with digital.
Yeah, they say that I'm a little bit of an audiophile, and it's something like, comments, please correct me if I get this wrong, but it's something like when the sound wave is engraved into the vinyl, since it's physical, you're getting an actual representation of what the sound wave was. When the digital representation, it is a 010101. It's a digital representation of what a sound wave is. Phrased another way, if you were in the studio making the album and the guy in the background coughed, you'd be able to hear that on the vinyl. Whereas the digital, that would not translate into 0100. So the meaning is that there are different elements of guitar and drums where there's like textures and things that may not be accurately reproduced by digital means.
Nerd.
I'm sorry you had to find out I'm a nerd you probably didn't know before.
And that's a great point that he's making, right? And that's why we will never lose print copies. Because there's that texture, there's that touch, there's that tactile connection that you get with it, whether it's raised print, whether it's newsprint, whether it's the smell of newsprint, whether it's somebody trying to reclaim XYZ, whatever trigger marketing
and
method, nostalgia.
listen, Granda Comics, can you pop that comment up on the screen, JD, please? Because that, guys, is our $1 million question. And my suggestion is we somehow have to have a foot on each road.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. I agree with that.
Well, I mean, luckily, thanks to print on demand, I mean, we certainly have an easier time to do that. I know that for my next campaign, even though it's for a volume 2, it is for a trade paperback. I'm doing a reprint of my individual issue 1 with 2 variant covers. And I'm able to do that. I'm, so it's like, so I'm kind of like, even on that campaign, it's like, okay, how do I offer a collectible when the trade itself cannot be collectible? So at least, the system we're in makes that easier for us to tread.
I got it, Daphne. I got it. How do you make it collectible? Right? You present it in a package of the single issue on newsprint, and you pack in the silly putty so people can do the old thing that they used to do where they slap the silly putty.
I don't think printing can do that anymore. I don't
think it has to be on newsprint. It has to be,
but I think like even the inks are different now. I don't think that even if you print it on newsprint, it's completely different now.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I don't think that
the technology is improved.
Yeah,
you just can't rip the ink off the paper.
Improved. Yeah, right. If you can't do that, is it really an improvement?
You can't use silly putty anymore.
No, I don't know if that's improvement.
Yeah, I didn't say the technology is silly putty. I meant the technology of printing.
But because of that, look, it ruins the ecosystem because of newsprint not being printed the same way and the ink being different. Silly putty went extinct.
There's an ecology, right? You have to keep
exactly. There's a very delicate ecology you have to maintain.
Right.
It's kind of like when horse and buggies went out of favor because of the automobile. There's a particular sparrow that went extinct because it only ate horse poop.
Oh, wow. What? This is amazing. What? I thought you were headed toward the strike of the buggy whip, guys.
No. There was a particular sparrow that it would eat seeds out of horse poop.
Oh, that's neat.
And once we transitioned to automobile, this particular sparrow went extinct.
Oh wow!
So silly putty.
Silly putty.
I sometimes like to give the example of, do you know the buggy whip example? Yeah. So it was like it wasn't called a union back then. It's like I don't remember the word, but it's like a trade alliance. And these guys banded together when they started to make automobiles, because like, look, we're all going to be driven out of business. Nobody's whipping a horse anymore with these.
Right.
It was like a long wooden pole with like a little rubber strip on it. And if you remember what happened, a couple of the guys banded together and they said, well, there's got to be some use for rubber on this upcoming projects, these cars. And anyway, they became the foundations of the tire companies. It's a term they call creative destruction, because the guys who quickly switched from buggy whip to tire manufacturing became titans.
Look at that.
There you go.
Look at that. And had they known that about the S&M market, they could have even made more money going into
that. I will send them your address. I'll send them your address, Jay. This guy.
Talk about creative destruction.
They could have had combo packs with the Bullwhips and that Alley Cat comic that came out years ago.
Oh, wait, Alley Cat, or was it? Are we thinking? Am I thinking about the same one? The Night Cat. Remember in the 80s, Marvel tried to do something with a singer, and I think it was called Night Cat.
No, there was a comic in the Image comic in the late 90s called Alley Cat. And it was based on some supermodel. I don't remember what her name was, but it rotated. The story rotated around something to do with the Marquis de Sade and
really
BSM or stuff. So
all right, I think we've gone far afield. So
okay, I do have
a little bit. Yeah,
it's an anti-pizza agenda, man.
It really is. It really is.
See what you caused?
Daphne, what?
See what you caused?
I know. I
When we
cause it all
talk
the
about
time.
pizza, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, right.
I know. I listen. I make mistakes like this every week. I invite you on. So Daffy, what was the question again?
I don't know. Who cares?
That's what I figured. You know, it was a whole thing about what is it, Marvel and DC, and people talking about Marvel and DC, and probably deflecting, what they should be doing and whatever. So
Well,
yeah, no.
when we stop paying attention to what the mainstream is doing, and
Yeah, like stop talking about Marvel and DC like their strategy when it's like, look, that shit got nothing to do with you. What do you have to do in where you are right now?
Yes.
Well,
So listen, I think what should be done is, yes, you should just ignore those companies and just move on.
Yeah.
So Jay, what's your question?
I got nothing. I want to be a guest tonight. Let's see. Ask his question. Go ahead.
well, it was kind of a question as opposed. Now we were talking about floppies. Has anybody checked on the market? There was a lot of people out there that were wanting to put floppies in head shops.
Right.
Has anybody checked on that? How is that coming back? Has anybody seen the market from that?
This is something we talked about. Could I maybe take a quick swing?
No, go ahead. Go.
My 2 cents worth on this one. As we said, look at stuff for comic stores. So we all want to get into comic shops or to get into the previews catalog, but we have to do it in a way that's somehow good for them too. So one of the segments that is looking for additional products to offer in their line is 2 things, like C said, which is, I was going to say vape shops, but any way you want to phrase it. And then the second one is tattoo shops. Both of them are very open to, in my experience, very open to carrying the books. And generally speaking, the fans of the genre, they're in there. They're definitely going to be in a tattoo shop, and they're possibly going to be in a vape shop. That one I don't know as much, but the tattoo shop for sure.
Okay, yeah. I think, in fact, one of the book that I got hired to do was a piercing shop, actually.
Oh,
so
sure.
That's surprising.
Mm-hmm. So did you get a free one for doing the book?
A piercing?
Yeah.
No. That's okay. I'll be all right.
All right. So Jay, what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry. Repeat it. I went to
Well,
another.
no, I was just curious about. Is anybody? I think there's a couple people who said they were trying out the head shops. With and whether or not that market was. Has anybody seen residuals from that market? Is there a customer base there? And well, Tim said, for the tattoo shops and everything, which makes sense because it's kind of an art focused place,
right? And they're a little bit counterculture, and it's kind of like it's not too different than an album store or what a music shop used to be like.
All of those boutique distributors that have reached out to me that try to do something, I've gotten GOTS from nothing, right? And that's four different boutique distributors that I have tried to work with and send them books, stuff like that. Maybe out of all of them, out of over 100 and something books I sent out, maybe I got back $50 total, right? Yeah. And then I even tried to do something over here where, I put them into a couple of the corner shops, the bodegas that were out here. Nothing. I put them on a clip strip. A clip strip is what you would see the batteries hanging out when you go to Walmart or CVS or something like that, or Duane Reade. And I was like, look, we're not taking up a lot of space. We're here. I'll put it in a chip rack, so it's nice. It's that impulse buy. And they didn't move, dude. I even had it in my sister's pharmacy. And you figure, all right, the pharmacy, right?
Here's a great comment here from Draw and Talk. You see that, JD, about the?
Oh yeah.
Because first of all, I want to point out I'm very angry that he pointed out that we're older. So let me just cover that first. But he's actually very accurate, because we had this conversation the other day that the younger buyers and the younger followers, which tend to be anime, and they're still into the art form and they're into sequential art. Phrased another way, comics is not dying, but it is going through sort of a culture shock, right? Like most of these people wouldn't necessarily
shift.
They wouldn't go to a comic store, and they don't care about the previews catalog. So he's probably right that we're spending, 90% of our efforts trying to reach 10% of the buyers. When we were at the Comics Pro event there in Pittsburgh, what the guys pointed out, and it was kind of what Draw and Talk said, it's very accurate, which is that the market is trying to cater to these older buyers who are super particular about everything, and they're not even really buying the product. When the smart thing to do is broaden the market, accept the younger buyer, and somehow adapt it to the way that they're buying things, which they assumed would likely be some sort of internet-based model, or even they were talking about, in some cases, an internet-based subscription service, something along the lines of almost like an app, like you'd pay $6.99 a month, and that would give you access to the first 6 of Daphne's books, and then the next month it would be Jay's books, something like that, you know.
I think that's what Global Comics is doing.
Well,
Right.
to hit on Tyler's comment though, because I really do think that obsession with comic book shops has a lot to do with my previous comments about too many creators worrying too much about what Marvel and DC is doing. Kind of like on a side note, so like I said, I've been following a lot of the shareholder meetings with the Disney Corporation because I hold stock in that company, so I'm privy to that. And especially on this last one with the proxy fight, there was pretty much the discussion about how the problem with Disney as a corporation is that they're run by people who only know how to run one type of industry. These are movie people, movie studios. They only know how to run movie studios. The problem is that Disney is not exactly a movie studio. It's an animation studio that's tied into theme parks and vacation. So they don't really know how to run the company. Even when you're talking about how they're running Marvel, they don't know how to run a comic book company. They only know how to run one thing. They only know how to run a movie studio. So what they do is they try to shoehorn everything into only what they know.
What they know.
Right. So, and I kind of think that related to Tyler's comment, that a lot of especially older creators, they only know what a comic book shop is. They only know that Marvel and DC are in comic book shops, so we have to be in comic book shops, when they don't need to know any of that. You know, it's kind of like, you know, like they only know how to do this one thing, so they can't see anything beyond the comic book shop. So it's like, yeah, when you bring up, you know, you could sell your stuff online, you could sell PDFs, you could, you know, the fact that now it's like, I'm at a point where my campaigns are 50% PDFs, and I couldn't be more thrilled.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know? And I like, just like I don't care about Marvel, I don't care about DC, and I especially don't care about being in comic book shops. So that's not even in my thought process whatsoever. All I care about is doing my book and getting it out there how I think would be best. But I'm not going to worry about this system that the more I look at it, it's like this is irrelevant to what I'm doing. It's like, look, it's like I haven't been in the Diamond catalog since they banned us from the Diamond catalog. And it's like, I don't see a reason to be back in there when we have so many other options.
If I may speak as an older person,
as an old,
turn up your hearing aid, guys.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. Many of us who've been around for a while remember the days, and this is a problem because we have these things called memories, right? Where we remember the days when independent books were selling 40,000, 30,000, 20,000 copies through the direct market.
100,000, JD, 200,000. You're hitting it light. Well, maybe not in our lifetime, but
right. No. But I'm talking about during the black and white boom of the 80s.
Okay, fair enough.
This was an actual reality. I mean, we were selling, there were independent comics selling 20, 30, 40, 50,000 copies. Cerebus at one point was selling 50,000 copies a month. Bone sold a lot of books. I don't know if he ever made it as high as 50, but I'm pretty sure he was making 30, 40 before he moved over to Scholastic. So there was a period of time when independent comics through those venues was making a lot of money. Now the problem is that I think as older creators, we're having issues with that paradigm shift where things have changed. You understand? So we have to adapt, right? So that's where I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to get into the comic book stores. There's still some relevancy there. It all depends. Can you get it in there? Can you sell 3, 4, 5,000 copies? It's hard. You understand? Especially now since we can't see the numbers, right? Because the thing is, looking at the numbers for Marvel and DC does nothing for us. But looking at the numbers for, let's say, AC, Boom, Oni, and those companies, those are indicators of things that maybe we can affect. Maybe those are things we can get a little bit closer to. If they're selling 3, 4, 5,000 copies of books from regular creators, and not necessarily Transformers or G.I. Joe or whatever, you understand, that have these markets, right? But there are a lot of these companies finance these smaller creators that go out there and they're only selling 3,000 or 4,000 books. Now the question is, can we sell 3,000 or 4,000, right? And that's where and there's revenue that can be made there. And then again, that's an additional revenue that can be made on top of the other revenue that you're already making from Kickstarter, from places like Global, from your own website, so on and so forth. It shouldn't be cut off because because all the young people are moving in another direction. No, you sell it as many places as you can get it, right? Yeah. You sell it everywhere and anywhere, right?
Right.
So yeah.
I have a counterpoint to that, though.
Let's hear the counterpoint.
Well, you're saying the 80s was the independent boom, right?
Well, that was a period. That was a period of the black and white boom.
Absolutely. But what was prevalent at that time also was newsstands, was also spinner racks in pharmacies, was also spinner racks in convenience stores.
Mm-hmm. But that had nothing to do with this. This was all through the direct market.
Okay.
There were no these books never made it to spinner racks. These are all through the direct market. This had nothing.
So this was all in comic book shops, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, you weren't finding. Yeah, it's like, look, the only way I found ElfQuest back then was in Barnes and Noble, and when Marvel finally put out their own individual issues of ElfQuest, and those ended up on the spinner racks. But like, you didn't find like the stand. Yeah, you weren't finding you're not finding Cerebus on a spinner rack.
Not those necessarily, right? Okay. However, my point is this, though. While you might not have found those individual comics, you still found things that drove people to those shops. Being in newsstands, being in spinner racks, being in pharmacies and things of that nature. Oh, I like Spider-Man. Here's a whole bookstore that sells things like that. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's kind of... But then you also have to take it into consideration. Okay, yeah, I'm not saying stop going to bookstores or stop trying to get into they're novelty shops is what they are. That's what they are now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. So how much energy are you putting towards that versus another source that's more viable, that you could double your energy towards something that's actually going to be more profitable as opposed to trying to get into a shop? Like there's one guy who calls like 30 of these shops a day to try to get in, right?
Yeah.
If he had put that into digital marketing or social networking, what more could he profit from that as opposed to just kind of constantly trying to get into novelty shops where eventually they're just going to stick you in a box in the back and say, cool independent comics underneath the shelf.
Well, funny you mentioned novelty shops because try to get into Fair, which is a novelty shop distributor, right? Not just it's a broader Etsy, right? And they tout over 100,000 locations here in the U.S., over 50,000 locations that they distribute through the UK. If you're not looking at any market, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? So yes, look at the direct market, look at the digital market. Look at the crowdfunding market and try to find a way to crack into the larger book market where there are over 119,000 locations.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in that situation,
more than anything.
But in that situation, though, how the time that it takes to actually get into these bookstores, right?
Mhm.
Is what I'm saying. Is what's the exchange that you're making here?
I don't know. That is the challenge we chose, and that is what we're trying to figure out. You know, if we had I hate to say it, if we had the answer to it, we wouldn't be doing all these pods on a daily basis.
But
2 or 3 times
also,
a day sometimes.
but also my point is too, is that a lot of times these discussions come off more as waxing poetic about nostalgia rather than actually creating a strategy.
Okay.
You know,
or even worse,
it's like
we're all yelling at the sky.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, it's like
clouds, right?
you know, like before my question.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Luckily we don't have one. But yeah, like before, like you know, screaming about Marvel and DC. Well, what are they doing? Who cares what they're doing? You know, it's like what's available to you now. What can you actually work on? You know, it's like it's like because the more I hear about people the more I hear Jose running the actual numbers about what it takes to actually make the direct market viable. It's like you're talking to people who can barely sell 100 copies on Kickstarter.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
and to be viable in the direct market requires you to regularly sell in the thousands.
Yes.
So at what point that you're just that's just champagne dreams there, baby.
Right.
I love to throw the numbers out.
But the thing is, hold on. The thing is we've sold thousands of copies through that.
Yeah, we sold in the 90s.
But in the 90s,
90s, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's like, yes, our first issues outsell what people are making on Kickstarter right now.
Yes. by a good
by
margin
several
too.
thousand
copies.
But you're also now competing with free comics, right? Let's forget the AI situation. We're also competing with free comics. So now what's the interest that I'm going to generate for you to read my comic? And you got to pay $15 for this 22-page comic to get it, and you've never heard before. And we're fighting against a group of people out there just putting out whatever and getting traction from that. I mean, you said it yourself. You look at Laura Lippis. Now, it's not exactly the best artwork in the world, but they're in bookstores in Walmart. You know what I'm saying? So you've got that to fight against too.
Right.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. So when you're fighting against that, is going into a bookstore or a comic book shop, which is only niche, going to a certain clientele, worth the amount of time that you're putting into it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's about strategizing your time more than it is on whether or not how much you can make out of going in. That makes sense.
I've kind of mentioned that before, and if it's okay, like I'm actually really thanks, Carlos. I'm thrilled to hear that you're a Flaming Carrot fan. You can expect me to reach out to you to talk to you about that. I will bore you with my endless recitations of Flaming Carrot.
Poor Flaming Carrot. He's just lost all the time. Even at the beginning of his own comic, where's Flaming Carrot? Yeah.
But we talked about the numbers a little bit, right? And this is one man's opinion. We all have different kind of deals. In my case, it's a percentage over 6,500 copies. And I get it that's kind of set because by the average, most I personally do not do over 6,500 copies. Maybe Jay does. I know he's a big shot. But I'm kind of using humor. I'm kind of using humor to make my point because it goes with what Draw and Talk is saying. Like I do better on one Kickstarter than I did on 3 publishing contracts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, as far as personal income wise. And to circle back around, because I love to talk about digital, and I believe that the single biggest opportunity is in digital somehow. Now you need somebody smarter than me to figure out exactly how. But you remember our conversation the other night was about, hey, what if we didn't offer digital? Would people buy more print?
Absolutely not.
I think the answer is no, because I think the digital customer is a completely different customer that reads comics a different way. And hold on, let me say in a good way. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of comic collectors, I realize, particularly in print, are buying these things and they are not readers, which is a little bit disheartening to those of us that are writers, right? It's like you want somebody to read your words. But the digital people, they're not doing it for collectible purposes. They're doing it to get a hold of the story. So my sense is the time, this is a suggestion, again, I don't know, but we're trying to find solutions, correct? My suggestion would be the part that we want to try and develop is that digital segment. Like, what is the extra thing that you can give to a digital customer that they'll say, hey, man, I really like this latest work from Daphne. She always gives me X whenever I buy her digital book. And my sense is it's going to be different for each creator. But, you know, each time that is the largest segment, and it is to me, the most profitable segment.
Right.
Yeah, Russ is right too. You also you can pick up way more customers by having some kind of attractive digital package. And my sense is that might be, in my case, it's music, and some people it's video. There's many easily enjoyable deliverable items that are digital. So we just have to find some kind of sweet digital package that people go, wow, I got to get this, you know?
Well, on what I've been doing on my campaigns is that, like I said, like now half of my campaigns is digital sales, and I couldn't be more thrilled, you know? So, and then what I found myself doing is offering more digital products as stretch goals and extras. I'm still experimenting with that. I mean, I just went through the entire trouble of learning how to, I guess, like how to code EPUB books, which allows you to read novels on Kindle, on e-readers.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I'm converting my stuff to EPUB. I'm converting Oswald stuff, you know, to EPUB, so that we have more digital products to offer. And on my next campaign, I want to like start really like pushing more digital products, because also it gets around the whole international shipping issue as well. You know, so you know, so yeah, so I mean, my whole thing is just like, yeah, I mean, there's certain, you don't want to, because like you don't want to end up throwing out the baby with the bathwater, but at the same time, you have to figure out which strategies are actually worth your investment in time.
Right.
You know, so it's like for me, worrying about the direct market and being in Diamond, couldn't care less about it. But figuring out how many variations.
But you're also coming at it from a very, very different standpoint than a lot of us. You're drawing and creating your own work.
Yes, so I have that option,
right, you have that option.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have that option of saying, screw that, I don't have to worry about
exactly.
that. But people like Jay and myself and probably Tim, we have to worry about that, because we have to make revenue to pay for artists. Right? So we have to try to get as much of that revenue back as we can. You understand?
You know,
so that's my counterpoint.
But the thing is, though, you still have to worry about what your return of investment on that time is, because it's kind of like the other day when I was talking about.
You know as well as I do, time is meaningless and it means nothing and is worth nothing. It's only worth something to the individual. Your time to me, well, in general, doesn't mean a great deal. You understand the amount of time an individual puts into something? Like, you can have an artisan, they take 50,000 hours to make this beautiful thing, and they're like, yo, I want to sell this for $5 million because I just took me the last 4 or 5 years of my life. And I'll be like, well, okay, well, good luck with that, buddy. And they can't sell it. You understand? Because it took them so much time. Their time means nothing to me. Just like my time doesn't mean anything to anybody else.
Well, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying, because I'm talking about time as in the amount of effort you put into fighting a system that's difficult to get into.
But
like
the retail
market.
That's my time I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to put in that time. You understand? I'm willing to put in that time. Jay's willing to put in that time.
Right.
Marvin
because
is
it's
willing
kind of like the thing that I was talking about the other day about, you know, like worrying about, well, okay, Common America You know, it's like, you know, Common America has X amount of people. How do we get those people to buy our comics, or even Neil Gaiman, right? I mean, you
in
can
the case of
cast
Common
that
America,
net.
you can't.
Right. Well, but the thing is, though, it's like you can cast that net, and it's like and push and push and push and push and spend all that time trying to, in the end, get two people, as opposed to maybe if you didn't focus so much on them and try to actually focus on a market that might actually be more receptive to your work, then your time will be worth more, because the return on your time investment will be worth more. You know, it's like you're in one hand, you're fighting to get two people who buy your comic in a store, in a comic book store, when you can turn around or sell like 50 EPUBs on a Kickstarter.
But the thing is, though, is I'm not saying to do one or the other. I'm saying do everything. Do as much
Right.
as
I'm
possible.
saying, you see, that's the thing. I'm saying don't do everything. Figure
that's
out what's
fine
more
for you.
efficient.
Right,
What's
but
more
that's fine for
efficient.
you. And the thing is, you could go out there looking for what's efficient and never find it.
But
Just
see,
just for everybody to know, this is exactly how the conversations go at home.
Yeah, this is
exactly
us
how
all the time. This is us all the time. Yeah.
No, but even still, okay. But as an artist, okay, you say her time doesn't matter, and your time,
Right.
but
I
even
don't-
your time's got to matter to you too.
I
If
just
you're
said
spending
my
more
time
time-
matters to
Right.
me.
But
That's
that's the whole point of it, though, isn't it? Is why are you spending time on a market? If you spend more time that's proportional, that is a large proportion of your time that you could be spending somewhere else where you'll make more sales, versus spending a large proportion of your time on something that makes minimum sales, why would you do that?
But the thing is, though, is if I really wanted sales and to make money, right?
Like I said, look, we literally had this conversation before we got on the show.
Yeah,
this is great.
Seriously. But the thing is, though,
this is why we don't do shows together.
Yeah, this is typically why
on
we
a
don't do shows
regular
together.
basis.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, is if I really wanted to spend my time more wisely to get more sales and make more money, I would be studying and doing crypto and doing day trading. I wouldn't even be bothering with comics.
I would have opened up a pizzeria.
Right. You understand?
Exactly. I swear, with all
there's a positive ROI to pizzeria.
With all of the business knowledge I've accrued in trying to keep the lights on by making a comic book, I could have applied a fraction of that to a brick and mortar pizzeria and made 25 times as much money as I'm making on a daily basis.
But I think that kind of like really showcases that when shit comes to Shinola, it's like we really can't make money at this. because there really are easier ways to make money at this.
Yeah. We do this because we love it.
Yeah.
That's it.
As frustrated as it gets us. Yeah, we do this because we love it. And if we were smarter, we would have been doing something else. I'm sorry. I really am. None of us
We're not fighting, Tyler. We're having just a very heated discussion.
Yes. And let me tell you, we have this conversation. We have it all the time.
I know. You guys know who's sleeping on the couch tonight. That's
the cat.
Do you guys know the sunk cost fallacy?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I think a part of this is too.
Yeah, and by the way, I was hesitant to agree with something that we heard from Tyler over at Draw and Talk, but he's right about a couple of things, as much as I don't like to admit it. The sunk
No, Tyler's a good dude. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm kidding around. The sunk cost fallacy says that for many types of business, you can say, well, I can't change the way I'm doing it now. I've been doing it all this time. And I got all this money sunk into it. When every piece of evidence says, hey, you're probably better off to burn the whole thing to the ground and start something fresh and new. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, we'll definitely listen. I was pulling your leg a little bit, but you're definitely right.
Well, Lois, not all the time.
And I would say we know that the answers, like I say, we want to try to provide some kind of solution. And of course, I don't always know what all the solutions are, but I'm continually amazed by how much pushback we get from things like expanding to digital. Remember that one the other night, which that seems like a no-brainer to me. And there's also an element of, we know that it takes multiple locations, what I call multiple revenue streams. Maybe it's not comic shops, Jay. Maybe it's tattoo shops. Maybe it's whatever. But I do think there's something to, not because I'm yelling at the sky, but I do think that there's something to, if you got somebody's like, well, I heard, my son likes comics, I want to take him to get a comic. You got a pretty good shot that the parent might be savvy enough to say, well, let's go to one of these comic stores. So you might be missing a beat if your book's not in there, which that's really the only reason anymore why I try to get into the previews catalog, is to snag that guy. It isn't because it's so profitable for me. But before we worry about being profitable, it's like we were saying earlier, if we're worried about money, are we really even making the right move by being comic book creators? Because, I don't know about you guys, everybody has different motivations. I wanted to be a comic book creator. I heard this was a great way to meet girls. The results are mixed. I haven't had the most
You should have gone into music.
Yeah.
You should have gone into music from the get-go.
But yeah, it's kind of a funny thing. But I'm always a firm believer, as we already established. I'm a guy that talks out of both sides of his mouth. Look, I want to make money. But the truth is that, there's a lot of up and downs in the industry that we chose here. And I'm not always sure, this is going to get me flamed in the comments. Buckle in, everybody. I'm not entirely sure that having the most profitable Kickstarter campaign or even the greatest numbers is any indicator of the quality of the product. It's
absolutely not. Yeah.
Right. And it's like a whole thing. And I mean this in a positive way. Of course, I'm not disparaging anybody. There's many people that are very well known as being great Kickstarter creators, right? But that's not necessarily the same as being a great writer or a great creator. It's a different thing. It's the example that I use. I keep touching on Taylor Swift. Obviously, she's the greatest musician on the planet, right? Do you guys agree with that?
I like
100%. Yes.
Because if we look at album sales and profitability,
Right.
she's by far the most profitable person. So that proves she's the best. Wait, guy. Yeah,
That's
now
like
we're going to
saying-
get.
That's like saying Dr. Phil is the greatest therapist.
It's exactly. It's
And technically,
exactly.
he's not a therapist at all. He's not even a doctor.
He's not even a licensed therapist, right?
Yeah, so I think you're getting my point. And again,
Right.
I'm not even busting on Taylor Swift. I like her
Right.
too. But normally people will push
but
back.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, people will push back on that. So I met a guy at a comic convention this weekend. For those of you who might have heard that, I was at 4 State Comic-Con. Thanks for having me. Great times. But I met with a couple of voice actors from a well-known anime franchise. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away. And, I had said something to the effect, man, long line, people waiting in line to get their autograph. And I assure you, it's a character that everybody in this room knows. And I said, man, that's so cool to be a voice actor. What a great career. And he said to me, well, this isn't what I do for my career. It's not profitable. I do this for love. And I went, wait, what? You're the voice and you have another job? And he says, yeah, Monday 9 to 5, I sell cars.
Wow.
But do you do it in that voice? That's what I want to know.
He must have.
I mean, remember when we were brokering printing for a while and we knew like all the guys at Pixar and we got to meet them at one of the San Diego Comic-Cons and we had, I forgot his name though. Was it Baxter? No, it wasn't. No, he did that rabbit one. He was doing this rabbit sketchbook comic. Forgot what it was, right? So we were having breakfast with the guy, right? And Jose goes, "Oh, it must be awesome to be working for Pixar." And he was like going, "I'm just another cog in the machine. Who cares?"
Yeah.
Really?
Like literally, it was just so like nonchalant. I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, he was like, "Did you see my 3 seconds?"
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
that was. He was like, "Did you see my 3 seconds?" There you
Right.
go. Yeah. I mean,
That's another reason why I got into comics, right? Is because I think John Silvestri said the same thing. It's like that's the thing is now here's a world that you can control. This is your image. As far as working for an animation studio or even another comic book company, that's somebody else's image.
Right.
That's somebody else's expression. You're just helping that expression along.
Yeah,
And yeah, you
yeah.
can add a little bit here and there of yourself. But look what Marvel did to so many people. Oh, you have to draw in this Jim Lee style. What they did to Herb Tripp, right? The same thing. Oh, you got to draw in this style, and yet we miss out on certain, great art that could have been created and could have been expanded upon because they pigeonhole them in these industries. And that's you might be losing money on this, but you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, well said.
Right. Where's the balance? Right. I mean,
well, how about this? Let's ask this group.
Somebody.
Let's ask this group a question. Can I pitch a question, JD?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
How many in this room have a dream or a goal of writing or art or any position for something in the big two? Meaning like, hey, I've always wanted to write or draw an issue of Spider-Man, or I've always wanted to work on a Batman title. If that's your dream, raise your hand.
My dream, or do I have a story pitch if it's approached to me?
Why are you making it more complicated, bro?
No, because you know what? When I was
answer the question, man. There's no qualifiers to that question. Do you know what a dream is?
All right, so do I have a
dream? Concentrate on goal.
Is he like this every week, man?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Now you understand why I treat him the way I do. Get him, Tim. Get him.
Welcome.
What I'm getting at is that a lot of people will say things to you like,
I love Tina Turner and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Don't put that up for me. That's a favorite of mine.
People will often say things like to me, and I've heard this probably 10 times. Hey, it's probably your lifelong dream to work on Spider-Man or to work on, and I'm always like, no, not even a little. Like I've never even considered it. Even a little bit. Now, if it was offered to me, that's something different, Jay. But it's not like I never saw this as a path to, like, that's not even a maybe for me. It never even occurred to me.
Right.
You added the caveat. You added the caveat that I was asking about. You put it in. You asked the question, but you busted my shot for it. Would I have? When I was younger, yeah, would I have loved to? Of course, that's what I dreamed about. But once I started doing this stuff, I'm like, no, because I could tell it my way, right? I don't have somebody looking over my shoulder, but the checks would be nice. I'm not going to say no.
Well, but didn't we determine that the checks aren't too nice?
Right. They're not. Yeah. They're not. But not going back to tying this into the getting into the direct market thing. Can we utilize that, right? As the first time somebody gets to know us, gets to know our work, and can we bring them back down the rabbit hole with the other stuff that we do in the future, right? The top of the sales funnel, top of the sales grill that we've brought, right? Our the first interaction that somebody has with our work. Can we lock them in and then bring them back down and turn them into what Granda is saying over here? You know, that 1,000 supporters. Can we do that? Right. Can we convert people? There's no right or wrong answer. There's just we haven't given up, so we keep plugging away at it.
There you go.
I'm going to say no. Just to answer, Tom, no. My goal, I always wanted to create. Even when there was a point of me that I wanted to animate, I wanted to do the whole thing anyway. So it's like, I guess maybe that's an ego thing, but it's just that's the case. If I'm going to create something, I want to be able to be hands-on the entire process.
Did you guys? I love to tell this story because it's gonna start like I'm bragging, and you're gonna love the ending. Do you guys know that for a brief period of time, I was on the staff for the animated version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Cool.
As a script pitcher. Yeah. Would you like to hear about how great it? Want to hear about how great it went?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 10 consecutive weeks rejected every time.
Damn.
And honestly, man, I'm not saying I'm the next Ernest Hemingway, but a couple of them were pretty good, you know? And it was like there wasn't even a maybe. I'm not kidding. It was rejected every time.
Now, were you in the writer's room?
Well, in those days, when you write a pitch, it goes to a guy it's his job to pitch, and he has like music and stuff. And he goes, the next one, he's like an animated guy. Like they hire a guy to do your script.
Kind of get that emotion worked up.
Yeah, which by the way, I'm a pretty energetic fellow. I probably could have done it myself. But the truth is maybe my writing was that terrible. But what I learned from that is, you know what, man, this isn't for me. Like I could have put 10 weeks of writing into something else.
Right.
Did you get paid for it though?
No, it goes by if they make it to the
Yeah,
table.
you see, that's because
Oh,
there's a
shit.
couple of animators that I follow where it's like a lot of their time. Talk about a lot of wasted
Mhm.
time.
I can even tell
Where
you each one that I
they
lost.
spend like 6 months putting together a pitch, and then it's like they go to all the studios, and then 99.9% of the time they're all rejected.
Mhm.
And it's like, and I would just watch her constantly post about, oh, another pitch got rejected, another pitch got rejected, another pitch got rejected. And I'm like going, there you go. At what point do you realize that that you're wasting your time?
Your time and your spirit. And
Right.
you know, by the way, I got nothing against animated script guys either. It was really fun to do it. But for me, it taught me how to get a thick skin and then just do it anyway. Because now if somebody, like if I release my own book and people say, hey man, this thing sucks. Hey, that's great. Here's my new one. Well, now I think this one sucks. Thanks for the feedback. Here's my new one. Well, now I hate this one. You know,
Yeah, there you
great.
go.
Here's issue 4. You know, just keep going.
Yeah. Well,
That's a
you know, it's
good-
funny. That feeds from my story into your question. Okay. Because when I wrote professionally in the 90s, the reason I didn't continue was because I don't like pitching.
Mm.
That's why I turned away from trying to get work at Marvel and DC, because I don't like pitching.
And now let
And
me ask you, what don't you like about it?
I don't like, dude. I mean, I would write proposals, right? So I would write, you know, the pitch line, and they would pitch proposals, right? And then, you know, the editors would come back and they'd be like, okay, yes, no, maybe, blah, 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 whatever. I just didn't like the process, right? And it was just something I just wasn't interested in. So I was like, you know, I just ended up getting a regular day job and just moving on and just you know, just doing my own thing. You know, we ended up doing, you know, obviously we're still doing Tall Tales, we were doing Oswald Chronicles, so on and so forth. And like I said, my editor is the guy running the business now, CB Cebulski. He was one of my editors. I spoke to him a few years ago. I haven't spoken to him in a minute, admittedly, but
He
you
was
know,
he was in Pittsburgh at the Comics Pro. I met him.
yeah. I mean, he's a cool dude.
He
I mean,
seems
you
like a
know,
nice guy.
yeah.
My accountant said that for me personally, it's not worth it.
Okay.
So it's like Martha's asking, are you incorporated, able to write off expenses like printing and travel? It depends on the size of what you do.
Yeah, I don't mind disclosing to you guys, you know, one of the secrets of being a producer and small publisher is you want to make it sound much bigger than it actually is. You know, and I'm Earth Dog Studios and there's 18 of us, but the truth of it is I'm what they call a sole proprietorship. I'm Timothy Fling. It's a one-man thing. So in my case, it's not enough. And I've got, my taxes are very complicated. And speaking directly, I owe the government quite a bit of money as it is just by my existence. So, you know, some people might consider a tax criminal. So until they come and
for
catch
civilized society.
Yeah. The I love it. But yeah, please be careful in asking me questions like that because I'll quickly slip into an anti-government rant.
But
Jay?
go ahead.
So if we ever have those moments where it's like, what happened to Tim? We don't talk about that.
The black car showed up and got him.
Yeah.
Well, printing and travel falls under expenses. And you know, you can generate a lot of expenses. You can generate a lot of research that gets written off. So, you know, are you going to make a fortune? No, there's a formula to that as well. But does it help you out? Yeah, I think it helps me out.
All right. See?
Oh, I don't make enough money for that. Yeah, there's no way.
Right.
I don't travel.
But I mean,
anyway,
but in the end, it's like that's something you really have to talk to a tax professional for.
Right.
Because like I said, like in Jose's case, it works. In my case, it doesn't.
Right.
So it really depends on how the numbers work out, whether it's worth it in your case.
Right.
Yeah,
you know,
I
to
own-
Daphne,
afford
who's
it
this?
or not.
Who's this
Yeah.
Jose guy you keep referring to?
Yeah. What?
There's no Jose guy here. There's Jay, there's Timothy, there's Steve, there's
No,
JD.
he's talking, sometimes my friends call me Jose.
Right.
There you go.
Maybe if somebody goes to using their name, Jose, I could go back to using
But
my
do you
whole
see
name.
Jay Ray?
JD. I don't know. Maybe.
That was the big
Maybe,
come off for
you know,
me.
things will work out for the best. But let's see.
One day. I've been thinking about it, but yeah, I own an LLC, so it can work out. It depends how you prepare your taxes and stuff. But yeah, you can definitely write off, pretty much whatever it is you need to conduct business. You can write those things off. You understand it? And the thing is I say it's important. You need to protect yourself, collect if you can. Make sure when you form your LLC, you have a separate bank account for that LLC and try to run all of your expenses through that account, right? So if you do get an audit, what's going to happen is like, well, here's everything, right? And only do your corporate stuff through that account. So if you have a personal item you're going to buy, like pizza, you do that through, your regular account, unless you're having a business meeting, then you could pay for that through your corporate account and you can still enjoy your pizza.
You are on a travel, work travel, and then you need your per diem for you gave yourself a per diem for food.
Mm-hmm.
Pump and dump.
There you go. Exactly. Look, man, I'll get you in touch with the guy.
Tyler, Jose's mad because we draw all our books ourselves, so we can afford a lot more.
I'm not mad.
Daphne,
I'm just resentful.
You're supposed to be my favorite one in that house.
I don't know what you're talking about. But the thing is, I think that also that does bring up how different the advice is, because look, in the end, it's like we're all talking about our personal experiences.
Correct.
It's like each one of us experienced this whole comics thing in our own, from our own angle, from our own experience, and it just goes to and it's like, so what works for me doesn't work for him. What works for him doesn't work for me. What Tim does, it's like maybe I can use a part of that. It's like there's no one piece of advice that you can say that, okay, this is what's going to work for everybody. I mean, even Tyler's marketing advice has to be like, well, okay, what part works? What part doesn't? Oh, this actually works. This doesn't work. So there's no advice that's really like universal. So, so the thing that we were talking about before just goes to show you that, yes, we're in the same house, we're doing the same thing, but we're both having very different results.
Yeah, right.
Because he has to pay out for everything that he does, to get his books together. Right. I can do most of it myself. I mean, if I pay out for something, it's because, I can, but I can still do it myself if I really needed to. Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yeah, these answers are making me mad.
So, so it's like, it's like, yeah, because there's a lot of times where it's like, it feels like that I'm able to be more flippant with my answers because I literally can afford to be, because I don't depend on a lot of it's like, I don't depend on a lot of stuff because my payout is so small.
Look, we get it. You're better than us. Okay. We get it.
Well, look, I can't help it. I sorry, I can't. I'm just that swank. You guys,
It's the cat ears. I'm telling you, it's the cat ears.
So yeah, so it really, so like everything that we talk about, you literally have to put it into your perspective. It's like, are you doing everything yourself? Which means that when you run a campaign, you don't have to make as much money to break even.
Right.
But as opposed to like when Jose runs a campaign or Rosario runs a campaign or even you, Timothy, it's like your numbers are different. So your strategies have to be the same.
Right.
I mean, it has to be different.
I knew what
This
you
is
meant.
coming from someone who hits 5 figures on a regular basis, but hey, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
I mean, it's like, look, I'm micro the only thing we have in common is that we're all micro publishing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's the only thing. Ain't nobody here having to, it's like, oh, I just sold 3,000 copies. It's like, none of us are doing that.
Yeah. Right.
It's just that how we're getting to our points are different. And that you have to like take everything we say into account together and as separate pieces.
Agreed.
I agree with that too.
And and I can't help it if
As I'm fond of saying, I like to seem like I know what I'm talking about, and I don't know what the right answer is, but you can come to me because I've done most of the wrong ones in a row.
You
There's
too?
knowledge.
You
There's
too?
wisdom there.
not for nothing
Yeah.
is probably sometimes more valuable. Learning the pattern of no, maybe I should reword that. learning what our failures are sometimes is a much better learning experience than if we got it right off the top.
Do you know the adage about that? I mean, I love the sunk cost fallacy. Do you know the one about how society tends to view failure as a step backwards, but in fact, it is one of the steps on the road to success. Like, in other words, if you weren't already headed the right way, you wouldn't have even had the failure. And most people, not all, will learn something from that failure and be like, whoa, I can't do it that way. I better try this. And that's actually a little bit more my strategy.
It's like what it is.
I'm on a long failure road then. I mean, I'm hitting every jug handle, every turn, every U-turn, every side.
Because also another thing that I like to bring up too is survivorship bias, which is the reason why I always get suspicious when people are a little too focused on big companies, because talk about companies that have advantages that you will never see, right? And it's like survivorship bias. And what happens with survivorship bias is that you're paying attention to the wrong things.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You're paying attention to the bullet holes not going through the plate. I mean, when you should be paying attention to the areas that's
how that guy survived. Exactly. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes a lot of people get wrapped up in, well, this person did it that way. It's like, look, when you have the resources, you could do whatever you want. I mean, it's like, look, Mr. Beast can do whatever the fuck he wants. He could put out a comic tomorrow. It'll outsell all of us right throughout the gate. Yep. And there is nothing we can learn from that strategy that will help us at all, except for the fact that, just be rich and be famous and,
like Jay.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I think we do ourselves a service. If
Tim,
all we're learning from is,
Tim, you're starting to catch on. Now you understand how much fun it is.
Man, I have fun on this show. It was funny. We were chatting in the car on the way up, and I was talking to David, and I said, I got this podcast tonight, man. It's my buddy JD, and he goes, is that the one you were telling me where? Because, we go on my show and it's like, you always got to be polite and sort of politically correct. And we got a very, diverse cast. So I'm very careful not to be offensive. And I said, but when I do this, man, I can just drop hot takes and act like a jerk. I said, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Yes. And we give you Jay as a punching bag.
Yeah, man. I get a big kick out of Jay. He's very humble, but he puts out 16 books a year or something like that. Come on, man.
Here's a question I have. Okay. Considering how much short memory comics have, right?
Mhm.
And part of our disadvantage is that we're not putting out books monthly. You know, as much as, you know, it's like we're not
Speak for yourself.
constantly in the constantly in people's faces. Right. It's like, and look, and we've seen those campaigns where it's like they put out a book like literally once a year, and then it's like they wonder why the campaign for the second issue that for 3 years later isn't making the same money the first issue did. Right.
Mhm.
So for those who now the thing is, now this is where Jose has the advantage, because he pays out for all his work. He's able to practically do a campaign a month, while I'm doing everything myself and I have to pace myself out better.
Yeah.
But here's I have to plan it out. So if you're in a position where you can't put out a book every month, essentially on Kickstarter or any other way, how do you keep your name out there, your book out there in the meantime?
Is that a question or rhetorical?
Either one.
Since you asked, like things like this right here.
Right.
Like, you know, I only do, look, I do 3 books a year. You know, I'm obviously one of the slower ones, but like I go into a comic book store in New Hampshire, 5 states away, and get recognized. It's got to be coming from podcasts, right?
True.
I assume that's what it is.
Good.
All right.
Good.
Jay, you got anything?
No, I was same thing. I'm seconding what Timothy was saying. You know, it's this, and I wish I was putting out 16 books a year. I'm not. I got 3 more left on the docket after this. Will I get them all out this year? I don't know. I hope so. But you know, but yeah, keeping your name out there, keeping it fresh by doing, you know, podcasts like this, by doing conventions, by doing, you know, free comic book day, by doing, you know, in-store events, stuff like that. Little things that keep you going in the consciousness of the folks out there.
Mr. Lanning.
Okay, well, that's what I was going to say. Is maybe don't focus your marketing on other people marketing comics only. Well, you mentioned Mr. Beast, and you say Mr. Beast could put out he could put out a comic and everybody would go buy it because everybody knows who Mr. Beast is.
Right.
But how did he get to that point? You know, that's when you look at somebody who started off independently, and when you say, "Oh, we do podcasts, we do these shows, we do these type of things, we go to social media, we post things, we keep people interested in everything." That's when we can learn from outside of this group as well. So it's important to not just go, okay, this is what Tyler does for his book, but what does Tyler do for his marketing, per se? To use that example, or even for instance, the big savior of comics himself, Eric July, was it because?
Oh, I thought it was Keanu Reeves.
Or Keanu Reeves, right? But, and I'm not saying look at Eric July either. Please don't. But my point is they came from different angles other than just push comics. Right. So you have to. That's what you want to be in the public zeitgeist. We like to say we're a comic community. Guess what? You're on here. You're a part of the YouTube community.
Mm-hmm.
You're a dual citizenship.
Right.
And that's what you have.
Nice.
You have to think of that. And so, what works for getting people who we know that like comics like ourselves, we also have to take into consideration people who like content. Right. And what do they enjoy to listen to? So maybe you got to get a mukbang, get some food out there, or just eat it in front of a camera.
Is that still a thing? Mukbang still a thing?
Who knows? I haven't paid attention to that. But that's what I'm saying. But you got to take. That's what you have to keep in mind. You're a dual citizenship. Now we're on YouTube. You're a YouTuber. I'm sorry. I hate to inform you. You are a YouTuber.
Hey, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. You know, I heard the phrase. People say this a lot now. Comics adjacent. You know what I mean? And now, not necessarily in this room because we all make comics,
Right.
But you get it. Like if you go to a comic convention, maybe 30% of it's comics.
Right.
Maybe
if
it might
not less.
Yeah, it might be 15% comic creators. It's probably 30% Funko Pops.
Of Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Funko Pops of Taylor Swift.
Right. Man, my daughter's gonna bash me if she sees this. Me on Taylor Swift.
Well,
I apologize. I apologize about my anti-Taylor agenda.
I'm the problem.
but it's all. And even at the end of the day, it's all personal, right? You hear Spawn, but I hear Todd McFarlane more than I hear Spawn.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
I hear Jim Lee, and I don't hear Wildcats that often. I hear Rob Liefeld, and I know I'm using image. You don't have to tell me the double standard here that I'm using for this. The point is it's you guys,
mm-hmm.
and that helps to get people to get a hold of what you want them to read. Because guess what? That's also an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
Are we a brand?
Don't say it. Don't say it.
No.
Yeah,
Tyler says,
actually,
I like the Common America method. They do 3 books a year, but to stay relevant, they put out a new piece of fan art every week with different artists. It also helps them grow their reach.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I love it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's like, so it's not necessarily you have to put out books.
No, but the thing is, though, it depends on where you're coming from. I mean, I'm putting out so much stuff because I have artists to feed,
Right.
and that's all that is. It's
I
just
see that comment and I start to work the numbers. I'm like, okay,
Right.
52 weeks out of a year, a minimum of $100 per commission.
per piece.
So we're looking at 5,200 minimum for the year. Can I fold that in with everything else, right? And that's going down. I mean, with all the other stuff.
Well, I look at really what brings to mind this kind of thing is the boom in independent animation that has happened, right? That Netflix show with the little girl that's a shapeshifter or whatever, Nimona, right?
Yeah.
My daughter was telling me how that started. Is that actually started with somebody on Instagram, just like, oh, I had a dream, and it was posting little pictures and little things here and there, and it grew, right? And it blossomed into what it is. Like it didn't start off with, oh, I've got this idea for Netflix, right? Oh,
right.
I know that hurts a lot.
I mean, yeah, because I remember when I think they built it up to a web comic at one point. Like I remember seeing that comic a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what about that thing that's on Amazon? The
We don't
Has-Been Hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that one.
No,
I
Has-Been Hotel. Yeah, it started off okay, and that was one thing too. Is she had the comic Furiosa, or something was the name of it. Anyway, she was on Tumblr. Tumblr took a dive. Unfortunately, so did her comic. But she branched out into animation. She did Has-Been Hotel. That got a lot of play on YouTube. It was like one of the most watched videos ever. Got picked up by Amazon. Big mistake, but whatever.
Got picked up by A24.
Yeah.
And then they pitched it to Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, still, big mistake. But my point is, but she still kept alive outside of that because she had another animated series called Hell of a Boss. And Hell of a Boss kept that going. Yeah. True. That's true. I mean, I think that's kind of that's a blanket statement, but true. But she kept it going with having Hell of a Boss as a free animated cartoon while she was working out the kinks on doing Has-Been Hotel. But you talk about Has-Been Hotel, but there's also another one. There's an Adult Swim cartoon called Smiling Friends. Smiling Friends also started off as an independent YouTube cartoon. What's that other one?
Bee and Puppy Cat.
No, it just came out with the 6th episode show. It was a really weird, kind of like a Sesame Street thing. Oh my gosh! My kids are going to kill me because I don't remember the name of this.
Well, one thing for sure though is that.
Go ahead.
Oh, one thing's for sure though is that I definitely don't have time to be doing no independent animation on my end. No.
And that, like I said, that is just a. That's just what.
I'm lucky I
going.
got a VTuber barely functioning. I am not.
Oh my gosh!
Talk about not having time for that.
All right, talk about we've just reached the second hour, so yeah, we're
Don't
out
hug
of
me,
time
I'm
for all of it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I can't hear you, so I don't know why you keep talking. Hello.
Everybody fighting today.
Everybody's fighting.
I'm
That's
very, very
We're having
angry.
fun.
Oh no.
Mhm. All right, everybody. So the fun times are about to come to a close. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Tim, please let everybody know where they can find you and your work, sir.
Just a quick shout out. Thanks, guys, for having me at the 4-State Comic-Con. Man, we had our record sales weekend. Call of the Cryptid sold out. Right.
Nice.
So thanks, everybody,
Nice.
for following that product. You can look for me. My website is earthdogstudios.com. And if you're so inclined, we just released a new song. It's over on YouTube. That's the Call of the Cryptid theme song. It is a 1950s sci-fi movie theme song that becomes an Iron Maiden dual guitar lead at the end. Hope you kind of dig it. Please leave a comment if you like to hear new music.
Cool. Mr. Lanning.
As always, you can check me out at lanningart.com. That's LANNING art.com. And on the, like I said before, as I said before earlier, you can check me out on different shows. I think the next one is, oh my gosh. Oh, we're doing movie night Wednesday night. So we're something about sexually assaulting giant leeches. So check that out.
Attack of the Giant Leech.
Oh my god.
Ooh, somebody was about to get yoked right there, bro. Yeah, I saw the hook.
I don't know how I said anything different. It's Attack of
He's
the Giant
watching
Leeches. The
a
four
completely
giant leeches.
different movie.
Holy shit.
It's the Rule
Anybody else
34
see
one,
that
right?
big flying head vaccine in the back of the head right there? Holy shit.
Yeah, now she comes in here whenever I don't need to ask her a question.
Oh, man.
All right. Mr. J, where can they find you?
Unstoppablecomics.com. You'll find all my social media links there on the website, Unstoppable Comics. And for the next 2 weeks, check out New York versus the World on Kickstarter. Oh, and Saturday, Comic Book Streamland. Come, hang out, crack some jokes, make fun of that guy who got a different name every time I see him. I don't know. Yeah, who knows what you be? Maybe Johnny, maybe Jeremy. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. There you go. Daphne, where can they find you and your work?
You can find me at my main portfolio site at egoworks.com, EGOWRKS. And there you can find links to all of my social media sites, but I mostly post to Facebook if you're interested in seeing sketches and current work in progress. And I don't know, maybe whatever fan art I have, that can go up there as well. You can also find me here on YouTube at my own channel at Daphne Lage, Lage art, where I have 500 plus videos on how I make my art, and I do a semi-weekly art live stream Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 hours of me just drawing and talking with the chat. And also remember, you can read Eager Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn for free, uploading every day, Monday through Friday. But if you prefer your fantasy to be more of a furry Lord of the Rings adventure, you can follow the link over to Tall Tales. That's TAILSonline.com, where not only can you read the first 20 issues of Tall Tales for free, but you can catch up on the latest story arc, Tears of the Mother, which is also on Kickstarter as well. It's a re-release of issues 1 through 5 and the brand new issue 6, also written by this guy over here as well. So link is in the show notes and in the chat to the campaign. There's less than 2 weeks left.
Nice.
All right, cool. So I'm JD Calderon. You can find me here next weekend, Twitter, Facebook, all those different places. The Oswald Chronicles currently running on Kickstarter right now, so go check it out. And just remember, everybody, all these artists, all these creators, they're in the show notes. There are links to all their websites. Go pick up some books. These are fantastic books by all these different people. Great books. Go check them out. Go buy them. Just remember, buy more indie comics, especially ours. Thank you, and have a good night.
Yeah.
Ciao.
See you guys.